It's Friday the 28th of October. This is the Climate Alarm Clock. This week's headlines: the world gets ready for COP27, and Ireland holds the world's first Youth Assembly on Biodiversity. Hello and welcome to the Climate Alarm Clock, the Irish Climate News podcast. I'm Darragh Wynne, and we didn't really know how this project was going to go when we started just over a year ago, so we're very, very pleased to be back with our third season just in time for COP27. Since this podcast started, we've tweaked the format and are continuing to tweak it this year with a big focus on our news roundup, and we'll have different guests joining us for the news roundup throughout the season. One thing I'm glad we haven't tweaked is that Anna Pringle is back again with us this season. Anna, how are you keeping?
Hi, Darragh. I tweak myself all the time. Thanks very much. Keeping very well and very glad to be back. I'm glad you haven't fired me and found a different Anna.
Yeah. So for our loyal listeners, they'll remember that in season 1 we were joined by Ceara Tiernan, and then in season 2 we were joined by Ciara Daly, and we just cannot keep a hold of our Ciaras. So to start off this season, I am very pleased that we are joined by Cara Carney from the award-winning Book of Leaves podcast. Cara, great to have you at the Climate Alarm Clock.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. And now there is an E in my name, so it kind of looks like Ciara, and my surname is actually Daly Carney, so I feel like this is where I belong, to be honest.
Yeah. We're slowly weaning ourselves off Ciara's. So thanks. Thanks for that.
And congratulations on your award, Cara. Well deserved.
You so much. Thank you. Yeah, the Irish Podcast Awards was amazing. You guys weren't there, unfortunately, because they do have a fee to enter. So part of me felt like, oh, should I? This is weird because have I paid for this? But then I ended up winning and beating RTE. So yay!
Well done.
So as I mentioned there a minute ago, we're going to have loads of guests on the podcast this season doing the news roundup with us. And one question I'm going to ask all the guests is, what do you call this situation, or how do you relate to this situation, and why? Because I used to call it the climate change, then the climate crisis, and then the climate emergency. And now I'm trying to call it the environmental crisis to make sure I'm taking account of biodiversity. So Cara, what do you call all this situation and why?
This whole thing. I think, first thing that came to my mind was it depends on who I'm talking to. Like if I'm talking to a politician or someone in power, I'm like, this is the crisis of the planet and a crisis of your future and your money. You should do something. And then if I'm talking to like a new mother or, someone with, I don't know, who's a bit maybe more new to things and doesn't have as much power, I'll be like, okay, there's a big, climate crisis probably going on, but it will be good, and there's these actionable things that you can take. But then when you mentioned that you call it the environmental crisis, or it can change that way, I was thinking that I would probably see it as a disconnection crisis overall, because I think all of it comes down to disconnection from nature, from each other, and from everything that we consume. It's everything. We're so disconnected from the source of products and so many things like that we just are over consuming, or we're just doing all these actions that we don't really care. But we do care, we just are disconnected. Yeah, if that makes sense.
I think that's a great way of putting it, Cara. I mean, one of the things for me as I got more into all of this stuff is all of a sudden realising how much everything is connected. From, whether it's rivers or animals or whatever, it's all connected to our consumption and to what's going on with the environment and the climate. So that's a great way of putting it.
Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Darragh?
Thanks very much. Yeah, no, that's great. And the rest of the season's guests have a high bar now, Cara, to live up to answering that question. So I suppose before we round up this week's news, we've been away for a few months, so we'll fly through some of the big things that have happened while we've been away. And I suppose the first thing that springs to mind is just all the crazy weather we've had in Europe and globally, particularly in the summer. Amazingly hot weather in Europe, rivers drying up, the rivers in Germany drying up so that they couldn't bring ships down their usual shipping routes. Also, the Mississippi River is really dried up at the moment.
Yeah, that was amazing, Darragh. You see the footage from Tennessee where the Mississippi River is usually a mile wide and people are driving on the riverbed and walking and it's down to like a very narrow channel. And then this is coming back to what Ceara said about being connected. Then you realise that, okay, the Mississippi is how they transport grain from the Midwest. It's a major transportation channel. So, you know, you kind of go, oh, yeah, the Mississippi's drying up. But, this actually means we won't be getting grain out of the Midwest easily this year. Yeah. So it's all, like, it is all connected.
Yeah. And then I suppose contrastingly, there was unbelievable flooding in Pakistan where a huge proportion of the country was underwater.
And still is.
And still is. Yeah. And it feels to me like it's, you know, that with climate change, you know, you kind of expect that things will go up and down and that, you know, maybe there'll be 1 year that isn't as bad as the last, but it's not really what we've been seeing over
Nigeria
the last couple of years.
has flooded as well only last week, I think it was, perhaps the week before. So there's huge weather events happening. Kind of scary.
And then it's just such a hot October.
Warmest October on record right now.
And I think one of my people I'm working with at the moment said it was like 30 degrees in the south of France yesterday. It's just not normal at all.
No.
All. Yeah.
I suppose the other big thing, the huge story from the last couple of weeks or something, I don't think I've seen anything that has gotten people talking as much as the Just Stop Oil protests.
Yeah. I love this one. I know like some people don't, but I don't know, for anyone who might not have seen, there was 2 Just Stop Oil activists who threw a can of soup on
sunflowers.
Van Gogh's sunflowers, and like it just blew up the debate over is what they're doing important or not, and it was just bubbling to the surface, this kind of awareness, or I don't know what you'd call it, a disconnect or a hypocrisy, that people were caring more about a painting of sunflowers than actual sunflowers and actual nature, and giving quotes of Van Gogh like he probably would have been on the side of the protesters. And I just think, you know, most people giving out about it are people who don't take any action at all, and it's like, well, then take action and show us how would you do it.
There was a whole theme about, they'll put people off and this is not the way to get support and so on, but they got amazing coverage from it. When I saw it first, I was like, oh no, not the sunflowers, and then I was like, they didn't damage the painting, so fair play. It was a very powerful protest, really.
Yeah. And I suppose the other thing to say is that, you know, people are saying, you know, why aren't they targeting oil companies? Why aren't they targeting the big polluters? And
but they have been.
That's the thing. Like, they have done. They've blocked. You know, they've blocked tankers. They've blocked pipelines, and none of that got anywhere near the coverage that this is getting. So sort of they're really justified in that action. Like I said, I don't think there's anything that has gotten people talking as much as that has. So hopefully that's a good thing.
I thought it was kind of disappointing to see some of the leading climate people though saying, they shouldn't have done that they're so naive, those kids, you know, it was just, they were very dismissive of it as an action, which I thought was kind of disappointing, I have to say.
Yeah, I think there's 1,000 different approaches to fixing this. You know, we need people working in policy. We need people who are, you know, doing local tidy towns group, but we also need people who are doing direct actions with the change that we need at the time, in the space of time that we need it. So loads of different approaches. Yeah.
And actually, but just to finish on that, there was actually a report in, I think, The Guardian this week, that they did a survey in England of whether people supported direct action. And something like, I want to say 70% of respondents were supportive of direct action and understood what they were trying to achieve. So maybe it's working. Yeah.
And so there are loads of ways of doing things. And that brings us on to our first story, which is the big policy way of doing things. COP27 is taking place in a couple of weeks, and I guess that's kind of why we are back, when we're back. But things are starting to build up for COP27. So COP27 is where all the countries of the world come together, or COP is where all the countries of the world come together every year to make plans for taking climate action. So COP21 in 2015 was where the Paris Agreement was signed, and then the most recent COP last year was in Glasgow last November, and now we're seeing the latest installment will be taking place in Egypt. And yeah, so maybe to start off, what are your own thoughts or feelings on COP, on the whole COP process?
I mean, my hope for this conference was, every year I'm like, look, maybe we'll get something done. And then I saw it was sponsored by the one and only Coca-Cola, and my hope just flew away, because Coca-Cola is the biggest polluter on the planet, and one of the, or if not the biggest supporters of oil, obviously, for all their plastic in their products. So that was very disappointing. But I mean, and I've heard as well that already this event is already kind of cutting out people. I don't know if they're being very accessible towards Indigenous communities or people in the most affected areas. So my hope with these kind of things is always on the outside of the building, with the people who are gathering in numbers outside it.
And that was the highlight of Glasgow, really. I'm kind of reminded of, we had one listener last year who told us that he listened to our whole Series 1 and started off with hope about COP and ended up in despair. So I think we just skipped the hope part this year. Because if you look at, so what COP27 has said that they need to do, and their objective is to turn the outcomes from Glasgow last year into action and then get started on implementation. And I just based on what's happened since Glasgow, I would be very sceptical that you'll see much action coming out of it.
Yeah. And so like you were saying there, Ceara, about organisations. So one, as well as Coca-Cola being announced as the sponsors, one thing that for security, sort of civic society organisations are going to be locked out for the first couple of days. So normally there's a blue zone where there's lots of pavilions, and NGOs get to sort of mix with politicians, but for security issues that's been delayed for at least a couple of days. So already things seem to be moving in the wrong direction. And then, as you said, Anna, they're trying to, make the commitments that were made at Glasgow actually materialize, but whether they will or not, I don't know. I kind of see it a bit like, if you've got a spelling, when you used to have spelling tests in school that you had to do on a Friday, and you were meant to learn a bit of the spellings every night, but you kind of left it until the Thursday, until the night before to do it all. That's kind of what COP is that all these countries say, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do that. And they're like, oh no, COP is next month. Let's do something. And I feel that's what everyone does. Same with news organizations, that COP is kind of used as this focal point. So that's the only positive for me, is that
that's useful. But if you look at last year, they came away saying everybody's going to commit to more contributions, every country, and so far only 24 countries out of the 180 have actually upped their planned contributions to the Paris Agreement. So, and even the ones that have upped them, they're not significantly increasing them. So that doesn't bode well.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. So that stat that you got there, Anna, is from a UNFCCC report. So very much like I said about people doing homework, all these organisations before COP release these reports, which kind of, I guess, just summarise everything to give governments the most up-to-date information in the lead up to the negotiations. So that UNFCCC report, as well as saying that just 24 countries have updated their targets since COP26, also show that we're on course to a 2.5 degree of warming by the end of the century if we meet all the commitments, and shows that emissions will have increased 10.6% in 2030 compared to 2010 levels. So for all this talk, of the need to take action, we're still going the wrong direction, and we'll still be going the wrong direction by 2030.
Yeah, I mean, it's the amount of reports that came out this week. It's obviously pre-COP, but you kind of go, whoa, how do you actually keep up with all of this data that's coming out? If Ciara Daly was here, she'd be going, not another report.
No, there are so many of them. So maybe we'll just fly through them. So Climate Action Tracker also brought out a report, and they look at sort of 40 key indicators of things that we should be doing. So things like ruminant meat productivity, reforestation, public financing for fossil fuels, the total number of kilometres of cycle lane, global public climate finance. And they look at all these things and they say, are we headed the right direction with these? Are we going at the right speed? And what they found is that for none of those 40 metrics are we going in the right direction at the right speed. For a few of them, we're going in the right direction and need to speed up a little bit. For a few more, or for most of them, should I say, we're going
the wrong way.
No, we're going in the right direction, but really, really slowly. And then there's 5 or 6 of them where we're going in the wrong direction. But it's good, and it's there's a lovely chart that it's really accessible and really understandable. So I feel
I'll have a read of that then, because sometimes words turn my brain to poo poo, but a lot of the time reports do as well. And I think it's really important to have charts or visualizations or using art to kind of compress these into things that people can understand. The majority of people can understand. Because I listened to a little podcast this year about how the reports, the IPCC reports, are only translated into 6 languages. So then maybe if they were a bit more accessible, that more people, more policymakers, more governments or whatever would actually be able to try take action on them. That's one little thing anyway that possibly could be done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know that.
I didn't either.
Yeah, I'll send you the little podcast. I can't remember. I think it was it's TED Climate, TED Talks, their climate podcast. It was on one of those episodes. But yeah, the reports can just be really terrifying. But at the same time, we do need to know how bad or good we're doing. We're like kids in school. We need our gold stars and our bad stars. We need to put in the corner and be told, okay, we need to kick our butts into action.
Yeah, and it's also one of those things that if you have a bit of knowledge of those reports, or you can find those indicators, then that's a really good way if you're contacting politicians or anything like that, that you have like the right information in the right language to be able to really call them out for what they should be doing.
Yeah.
And then so there's 2 other reports then. One of them is the Lancet Countdown report, which is taking a health focus, which I really like. It's looking at how climate change is affecting people's health. And for those who have been listening from the start, they'll remember that we had Irish Doctors for the Environment do a collaboration with us in their first season. And looking at climate change as a public health issue is a really good way of doing it, and seeing that if we take this action, everyone will be healthier, and if we don't, people are going to struggle even more. So their own headline was that health is at the mercy of fossil fuels. So that basically, fossil fuel companies are impacting people's health globally into the future. And one of the findings there was that 98 million more people were reporting moderate to severe food insecurity in 2020 compared to the average from 1980 to 2010. Wow.
And you're seeing the just horrible scenes from Somalia and the Horn of Africa bearing that out. And then even if you go back to Pakistan that we mentioned earlier, apart from the floods, a third of the country were underwater. A lot of them are still underwater, but apart from that, they now have cholera. They have all sorts of waterborne diseases that they're dealing with, and food insecurity as well, because they can't. 1, they lost this year's harvest, and 2, they can't plant next year's harvest. So, again, coming back to Ciara's theme, it's all connected.
Yeah, and that Lancet report's actually really clear on that. In that, it mentions we're coming out of the pandemic, we've got the war, and we're now in a place where we've got all these crises happening concurrently, and climate change just really exacerbating all that. So yeah, not not positive reading, but I think linking health and climate gives a really positive way to move forward and to see all the benefits if we take action.
Yeah, exactly. Like it can be framed in that way, because I think, you know, it is kind of sad that we're so far away from communities in like Pakistan or like the likes of Puerto Rico had that hurricane very recently. A lot of them are still without electricity. That isn't enough to spur us into action. But sometimes if we do hear, you know what, every time your neighbours light a coal fire, the air quality in your area is going down and that is affecting your health, then we're kind of spurred into action. But regardless, framing things, and it's not all sacrifice. We gain so much, like fresh air and food security. You know, there's so many great things to be gained if we actually take action on time, speed up the pace.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And one of the encouraging things from all these reports this week was the IEA, which is the International Energy Agency. They have said that it looks like there will be at peak fossil fuel usage by 2025. And so it's hard to see a positive outcome from the Ukraine war, but one of the positive outcomes has been they're seeing countries accelerating away from fossil fuels because they're realising the threat to energy security by being dependent on Russian gas or one source of fossil fuels. So that's the good news from that report, is that they're seeing that trend away from fossil fuels just accelerating in the last couple of years. So.
In the words of Lizzo, it is about damn time.
Yeah, exactly.
And just to bring us all down with one last report, that the WMO found that greenhouse gases are at record high levels, methane worryingly so, and scientists don't exactly know why or how methane levels are so high. And then one thing.
No, that's worrying.
Yeah.
They're supposed to know. Why is it this way?
Yeah. And one thing related to that then is that the EU. So last year at COP26, the EU made a pledge to reduce methane by 30%. And there have been warnings this week that that target is it's way off and there's no real plan to get us there. So people saying that the methane target is failing. So to sort of bring us back full circle about COP and, you know, countries making all these pledges, how do they actually make it happen? So that's what we'll be keeping an eye on with
action.
COP. Yeah.
Action.
So that's what we'll be keeping an eye out with COP for the next couple of weeks. So I think after all of that, after all those stats and figures and reports, I think we can move on to a really great, good news Irish climate or environmental story, which is that last weekend and a couple of weekends before that, so 2 weekends in October, the world's first ever Children and Young Persons Assembly on Biodiversity Loss took place in Ireland.
The world's first ever.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
So I mean, Ireland, I think we're the first country to have a citizens' assembly on climate change back in 2017. There's an adult citizens' assembly on biodiversity loss taking place at the moment as well, which is I think a world's first. And then this youth assembly, that is a world first as well. So 35 young people from all over the country came together over the course of 2 weekends to learn about biodiversity loss and make recommendations as to what we should all be doing when it comes to tackling the biodiversity emergency. So
sorry, how many people did you say, Darragh?
So there were 35 young people. And so what was really nice about it though was that there was also a team of young advisors that were part of the organising of it. So it was done. So I was actually working on it for a few weeks.
Were you one of the young advisors?
Afraid not, Anna.
Are the young people all randomly picked? Like they're not like the other citizens' assemblies?
Yeah. So obviously it's a bit trickier with young people, but anyone could apply. Okay. And then the young people were randomly chosen from the applicants to make sure that it was representative of all the young people in Ireland. So a mixture of ages, a mixture of backgrounds, people from all over the country. So it was like a representative sample, which Would you like to hear the recommendations?
Yes, please.
So they had 58 small recommendations and then 6 big ones. And the 6 big ones were that we should treat the earth like we do our family and friends and give it the right to be treated with kindness and respect. Future generations should live in a world where there isn't a crisis, where children don't have to take action because of the incapability of past generations. Isn't that just amazing?
Here.
Every decision must take biodiversity into account. Children and young people must be included in decisions being made about biodiversity. Biodiversity protection must be a shared responsibility and a global collaborative effort. And we all must consume resources in a sustainable, moderate way that neither diminishes the environment or biodiversity or rights, well-being and livelihoods.
Amazing.
Isn't that just amazing? Like,
Yeah.
From 35 young people, just really inspirational.
And is there a way people can access their recommendations anywhere?
So there is a website. It's cyp/biodiversity.ie. I don't think the recommendations are up there as of yet, but I'm sure they will be in time. And then I think those recommendations will be passed on to the adult assembly that's going on as well, which is great.
Brilliant.
Yeah. And so I suppose the thing for me about why this is such a good news story is, people often talk about what difference can Ireland make? We're only a small country. And in 2017, Ireland did a Citizens' Assembly on climate change. And now countries all over the world have copied that. And not only that, that's one of Extinction Rebellion's main demands, is that they ask for Citizens' Assembly. So, in terms of...
The Ireland branch didn't have that in their demand, because we already had it. So we were just like, okay, can we just act now?
Yeah, but
needed.
so that's real climate leadership and real environmental leadership from Ireland, and just shows we can make a difference. And then obviously, as you said, Ceara, we do just need governments to actually act on the recommendations that these assemblies make.
But that's the key, Darragh, and I'm going to be a bit cynical here, but we love assemblies, and the citizens' assemblies always come out with really good recommendations, but they're only as good as the action that's taken from them. Now, the original Climate Assembly did lead to the Climate Action Plan and did inform the climate law, but you still need to take action as a result of those plans. But it does hopefully spur the government into action and make them realise that these are not going to be, this is popular, these are demands that people are making on behalf of biodiversity and on behalf of the climate.
Yeah, and also, like, for activists and for people that are trying to contact people in government, it gives you such a good foundation to say, look, this is what the people have recommended, so why are you not doing that? So it does really give people on the outside leverage, I think.
But it's so reassuring too, because these assemblies are so carefully put together, and they bring in experts. So it's a very reasoned thinking and debating process, very democratic. And yet they come out with things that are way more radical, actually, than even if you had a bunch of activists in the room, because it's like, because they're learning, it's a learning process for people. So it is, I think they are very, very positive, and it's very reassuring that our kids are coming out with these statements as so important. And it's a great idea to have that youth assembly, I think.
Yeah. And so just to say as well that the adult assembly on biodiversity loss is still ongoing, and you can actually make submissions to that until the 9th of November. So we'll put a link to that in the show notes.
When you say make submissions, do you mean apply to be on it?
No.
Or submit as an idea?
Submit an idea or submit your own thoughts and feelings on biodiversity loss in Ireland, and then that will be sort of looked at by the Assembly Secretariat and by maybe the Assembly members. So
pretty good.
Yeah. So it is good to, that we can all have our say. So I think that is a really positive story. Anna, do you want to tell us a bit about the Energy Charter Treaty then?
Yeah, so we were just talking about you can take action by putting submissions into the Citizens' Assembly or whatever. Here is another thing you can take action on. The Energy Charter Treaty it's kind of shocking when you read about it, actually, but it's a treaty that was put in place internationally basically to protect fossil fuel companies. And what it does is it allows investors and companies to claim compensation from governments if there are policy changes that threaten their business ventures and revenues. So for example, Italy had to pay 190 million to a UK oil and gas company because they decided to protect the Adriatic Sea and stop them from drilling there. So it kind of boggles my mind that we ever signed up to this treaty and that people don't know more about it. So what we're seeing recently, which is very encouraging, is that France, Spain, Poland and the Netherlands have all announced plans to withdraw from the treaty, which is very positive.
That's so good.
Yeah, exactly. And now the European Commission is trying to save the treaty and has made some amendments to it and so on. And they are going to be looking to have that signed and approved in November. So we need to be putting pressure on the Irish government to withdraw from the treaty as well. And there are some people in the Seanad and in the Oireachtas are ramping up on that. So if you want to take some action on that, Friends of the Earth, check it out, has an easy, you can email your TDs, let them know that you care about this and that Ireland should be withdrawing as well. Going back to what Darragh said about being a leader on some of these topics, it is beyond time for us to come out of the ECT because it's a terrible treaty.
When did we sign into this? Do we know?
It's been around since the mid-90s, I think, and it was to do with they wanted to encourage investment in fossil fuels, blah blah, with the fall of the Iron Curtain and so on. Ironically, the US and some of the other big fossil fuel producers are not part of it, so they can't be sued.
Oh my God!
Yeah, but it's like,
So
I know it's astounding when you think about it. So there's still time to put pressure on the Irish government before that meeting in November, because it has to be unanimously approved for the European Commission to continue with it. So get onto your TDs.
It's similar to this. I hadn't heard of this before, but I know the CETA trade agreement is the Canadian-European trade agreement or something like that. That would do essentially the same thing, not just for fossil fuels, but for any business,
Yeah.
And we're fighting against that being brought in. But then I didn't know this thing was already there.
Yeah.
That is wild. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you for that.
So Friends of the Earth have a good template for emailing your TDs on that and making sure they know that people care about it.
Brilliant.
Great.
Thanks,
Maybe I'll
Darragh.
throw soup on their door.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for letting me have my soapbox on that one, Darragh.
No, brilliant, Anna. And it's kind of like what you said about that disconnection, Ceara, that we don't have any protections for nature, that we can just destroy nature, but we have all these comprehensive protections in for companies' profits.
For the companies that are destroying nature.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There are some countries. I saw a news thing recently about somewhere who had given rights to trees, I think, or something like that. But now I'm just pulling something from my memory on social media. So perhaps that is something that we can share in good news in the future. But I know some countries are progressing that in that way, which is brilliant.
Yeah.
Some of the South American countries, I think Ecuador has given rights to nature.
Brilliant.
As part of their constitution, actually.
I think New Zealand as well are doing good stuff on that. Just before we go then, our not climate story. So every week we look at a story that's not about climate change and talk about how it is related to climate change. And this week, I think, well, maybe it'll be your story every week, that the UK will have a new Prime Minister.
In the weekly, who is the Prime Minister this week?
Our guest on the Climate Alarm Clock this week is, and the Prime Minister in the UK is, So I suppose how it's a climate story is, it's just turned into a game, politics in the UK, where it's all these powerful people just posturing and just getting into these positions of power and not actually doing anything meaningful to help the people there or to take any sort of action for the planet.
Yeah. But also even how it's covered, like the Irish media endlessly love all these political, shenanigans and theatre or whatever, and it's just a massive distraction from all the important things going on in the world. It's not that it's not important, it is, but it's just why are we constantly obsessing about the individuals that are in place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it is hard to ignore though, because the Prime Minister now, Rishi Sunak, I mean, he is the richest Prime Minister there's ever been. His worth is like 750 million or something like. I can't even comprehend that money.
That's his wife's
euros.
His wife's wealth, by the way.
Oh well,
yeah.
I mean, good for her. I'm all about, you know, dismantling the patriarchy, but I just don't think anyone should sit on that amount of money.
I don't think the way to dismantle the patriarchy is to have a prime minister that's richer than the king.
No.
I don't think that's
But also
wild.
it's so depressing to see the sort of post-colonial government that they have as well, where you've got Rishi Sunak saying that this country has done so much for me, and like, you know, and so many Asian British people are going, oh no, you know, you do not represent us. You know, it's like,
it's just exploiting a kind of, you know, there are genuine racism issues all across the world, also in the UK, and then to be like, look at us, we have, you know, a person of colour as a prime minister, but there's so many, like Emma DeBerry posted about this, about not all diversity comes from who you are as a person. You know, you have to represent diversity inclusion for all groups for you to be diverse. If you're just a person of colour in the same position, a dragon sitting on a wealth of power, or you know, just a rotating carousel of prime ministers that aren't taking enough action in the multitude of areas, not just climate action, then you're not diversity at all. You're just another brick in the wall.
yeah, another one of the 1%.
To finish that up, I suppose one positive is that Rishi Sunak has re-implemented the moratorium on fracking. So Liz Truss had opened up the UK again to fracking, and Rishi
Wasn't
Sunak.
that one of the reasons they were all like,
Yeah, that was her downfall.
in the whole thing.
That was her
Yeah.
downfall.
So that is one positive on Rishi Sunak being Prime Minister for us to end on. So before we go, can we do a little roundup of actions that people can take? So I will say that, you know, do submit something to the Biodiversity Assembly. Have your say. Let the citizens who are making those decisions know how you feel and what kind of actions you would like to see. Ceara, do you have any actions you want to flag with us?
Yeah, I am a jack of all trades, a master of none. You guys have masters in climate change. I don't know what I'm talking about. I just care about the environment and the way that people can get involved. The easiest and really have a nice day out is join marches and protests, and we have one coming up on the 11th of November because COP will have started then. It's a Friday, so we'll be joining Fridays for Future. I say we, it's the likes of Extinction Rebellion, Not Here Not Anywhere, Animal Rebellion, the Climate Justice Coalition. Like, there's loads of different groups that are going to be there on the day. We've yet to finalise, you know, our route, or will we have a rally or whatnot, but if you can, if you're in a position where you can take a lunch or Friday off work or swap shifts, then Friday the 11th of November, get on the streets, because people power is I think how we're going to change this, because the people in government haven't been. And that's my suggestion.
And Ceara, is that in Dublin or around the country?
That is going to be in Dublin for sure, as far as I know. And then possibly, depending on how planning meetings go in the next few days, there might be people in local areas that, you know, are starting up. But I'd say keep an eye on. See, I'm in this through Extinction Rebellion and Animal Rebellion. And I know we'll be posting about it on our social medias. But or if you want to follow Book of Leaves, I will share there where people can get involved as well.
Excellent.
How they can, yeah.
Great.
Excellent.
And so good to have that flagged nice and early. Thank you for that, Ceara. And Anna, do you want to give another shout out to that Friends of the Earth?
Just a reminder, the Energy Charter Treaty, you can hassle your politicians about that. It's very easy to find out who they are. Check out the Friends of the Earth website. They have very simple tools for helping you do that if you don't know what to say. So, or you can say whatever you want to yourself, even better.
Great stuff. Okay, Anna and Ceara, thank you so much for having that chat this morning. It's great to be back.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. I can't believe I'm like in the actual newsroom. Like I'm usually sending my own little clips to you, or it started off as me just going, "My God, the COVID Alarm Clock podcast is great," and now here I am just being like, "What does this mean?" And I couldn't be happier. So thank you so much for having me.
No, it's brilliant to have you, and we'll see you again next week, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great.
Excellent. And good luck with your Halloween show, Ceara. I believe it's going to be a good one.
Yes, we're doing a little show called Into the Dark where we're going to scare adults as they wander around this house. But it's actually a play as opposed to like farm phobia. But yeah.
And are you
like
you scaring them with climate statistics or?
Yeah, I'm going to hand
That's
them all
our
a
job.
report. Exactly.
You think that ghost is scary? Have you heard about the Lancet countdown? That is it for this week. A reminder to follow us on social media. You can find us on Twitter at The Climate Alarm and on Instagram and Facebook at Climate Alarm Clock. If you have anything you would like to get in touch with us about, you can also email us on climatealarmclock@gmail.com. That's it, and we'll see you all next week.
Great to be back.
Bye.
Bye.